Welcome to our deep dive. Today we're going to be unpacking executive function skills.
Mm.
And what's so interesting about this is these mental processes
Right.
are super important for managing our lives.
Absolutely.
But we don't often realize how much adults struggle with them.
Yeah, you're right.
We're going to be looking at this through this book, Smart But Scattered,
Okay.
which argues that these skills
Mm-hmm.
can actually be learned and strengthened at any age.
It's pretty fascinating, right? It really challenges that
Absolutely.
misconception that executive function skills are only for children.
Right.
We need them for everything,
Totally.
from work deadlines
Yeah.
to family dynamics
Too true.
to our relationships.
Yeah, the book kicks off with this story of Ginger,
Oh, yeah.
who is juggling her work and family life.
Mm-hmm.
It illustrates how if you have executive function weaknesses, it can lead to a lot of stress.
Absolutely.
But what I thought was so interesting was the argument that modern life,
Mm-hmm.
with its constant multitasking and information overload,
Mm-hmm.
is pushing our executive functions to their limits.
It's true. And the book even says that multitasking,
Right.
which most people think is a good thing,
Yes.
actually makes our work quality worse.
Wow.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, so Smart But Scattered dives into 12 core executive function skills,
Uh-huh.
which act as a toolkit for navigating life's intricacies.
Yes.
Why don't we start exploring some of those? Could you tell us about response inhibition?
So response inhibition is like that mental break. It
Yeah.
lets us pause and think before we act.
Sure.
So we don't do things impulsively that we'll regret later.
Interesting.
And it's closely tied to emotional control.
How so?
Well, when you can master your impulses,
Uh-huh.
you can better regulate your emotions.
So it's not just about stopping yourself from saying something you shouldn't.
Right.
It's also about managing your emotions in like a really heated situation.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, what about working memory?
Working memory, well, that's like our mental notepad.
Okay,
So it holds information while we're processing it.
gotcha.
And that's super important for following instructions, remembering details, and just doing things accurately.
So how does working memory play with other executive functions?
Well, let's say you're planning a trip.
Okay.
You're going to need to use your working memory to hold all of the dates,
Right.
the destinations, budget details, all while you're putting together your itinerary.
Makes sense.
So it underpins so many complex tasks.
So it's like the foundation.
Yeah.
Okay, so good working memory is essential for planning, organization,
Mm-hmm.
time management.
Uh-huh.
Okay, what about emotional control? That's the next one on our list.
Emotional control is all about managing our feelings,
Mm-hmm.
especially when things get tough.
Right.
And that's really important
I could do that.
for healthy relationships.
Yes.
So that we can resolve conflict in a good way
Mm.
and make rational decisions even when we're under pressure.
This makes me think about task initiation,
Yeah.
which can be so difficult for people who are prone to procrastination.
Mhm.
Does the book suggest that procrastination is related to executive function?
It does.
Okay.
So being able to start tasks quickly,
Right.
even the ones we don't want to do,
Yes.
really hinges on how strong our executive function is.
Interesting.
And the book says that if we address those weaknesses, we can overcome procrastination.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about sustained attention?
Oh, that's a big one.
It feels like a superpower these days.
It really does.
Being able to stay focused
Mhm.
when tasks are boring or difficult.
Especially in a world of so many distractions.
I know, it's tough.
So important for deep work and
Mm.
achieving meaningful goals.
Totally. The book also mentions planning,
Yes.
which is breaking down big tasks into smaller, manageable steps.
That's key.
Right?
It reduces stress
Uh-huh.
and helps us succeed,
Yeah,
whether it's a project at work or a family vacation.
totally.
It's about anticipating those obstacles and creating a roadmap
Oh, I like that.
to reach our goals.
And then we have organization.
Yes.
Creating systems for managing information, time, even physical spaces.
Organization helps us live a more efficient life
Yeah,
with less stress.
right.
Helps us streamline our workflow,
Yeah.
declutter our space,
Mm-hmm.
and that frees up our mental energy for more important things.
And then there's time management, which seems pretty related,
It is.
right? The skill of allocating time
Yes.
and then sticking to those time limits.
Time management is all about being intentional with our time
Okay.
so we can maximize our productivity.
Mm.
It's about making conscious choices about how we spend our time
Gotcha.
and aligning that with our values and goals.
What about goal-directed persistence?
Oh, that's a great one.
Does that relate to motivation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Goal-directed persistence is all about staying focused on our goals,
Mm.
even when we face setbacks or distractions.
Yeah.
It's about being resilient,
Right.
determined, overcoming obstacles,
Yeah.
and reaching our long-term objectives.
And flexibility.
Ah, yes.
Being able to adapt to changes without getting totally derailed.
In our ever-changing world,
Right.
flexibility is so important.
I can see that.
It's about adapting to unexpected events,
Uh-huh.
finding new solutions when plans change,
Yeah.
and just staying balanced amidst all of the uncertainty.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's metacognition.
That one sounds a little intimidating,
Right.
but it's really just thinking about our own thinking.
Okay.
So it's self-awareness,
Well,
understanding how our minds work so that we can learn from mistakes,
gotcha.
assess our strengths,
Yes.
pinpoint weaknesses,
Right.
and then just refine our approach based on feedback.
Wow.
So important.
Okay, and finally we have stress tolerance,
Stress tolerance.
which seems more and more relevant these days,
Absolutely.
you know, with our fast-paced world.
It's crucial.
Being able to handle pressure without feeling completely overwhelmed.
Right. It's about building our resilience,
Mm-hmm.
developing healthy coping strategies, and just staying calm in those challenging situations.
That's really important.
It is.
Okay, so we've explored those 12 core executive function skills, each with their own unique characteristics
Yes.
and influences.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so clear that these skills are interwoven
Definitely.
and impact so many different areas of life.
And smart but scattered emphasizes that we all have a unique profile
Right.
of executive functions.
Totally.
So you might excel in some areas,
Yeah.
but really need help in others.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Okay, that brings us to the practical strategies offered in this book.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of environmental modifications.
Yes.
Changing your surroundings to support your weaker skills sounds so intriguing.
So interesting, right?
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
It's all about working with our brains,
Mm-hmm.
not against them.
Right.
So structuring our environments and routines to minimize how much we have to rely on those weaker skills.
I see.
Yeah.
They give this example of Peg's organizational system,
Oh, yeah.
where she avoids clutter
Right.
and uses visual reminders.
Uh-huh.
That's such a powerful example.
It is. It shows just how much of a difference that can make.
Absolutely.
And they talk about delegating tasks
Yeah.
that tap into those weaknesses
Hmm.
or asking for help
Right.
from other people to hold us accountable.
Okay, and then of course they
Yeah.
talk about using technology.
Of course.
Alarms,
Yes.
reminders,
Uh-huh.
apps like Stay Focused or Instapaper.
Right. Those can be so helpful.
I can imagine, especially for people struggling with certain executive function challenges.
Absolutely.
It's like a game changer.
It can be.
So the book doesn't stop at just managing these skills.
No,
They actually go a step further and outline a process for actually improving them.
they do.
So that's where task modification and skill improvement come in, right?
Exactly.
So task modification is breaking things down,
Mhm.
setting realistic time limits,
Right.
and adding in rewards to keep
Yes.
us motivated.
To stay on track.
And skill improvement is about consciously practicing and reinforcing that skill
That's the key.
that you want to improve.
It is.
They use this example of Antonio,
Yeah.
who's a freelance writer,
Right.
and he's really struggling with sustained attention.
Mm-hmm.
And he made so much progress
He did.
by setting time limits,
Uh-huh.
structuring his work environment,
Right.
and building in breaks.
Yeah.
So he adapted his environment and routines
Mm-hmm.
to support those weaker skills
Exactly.
instead of just relying on willpower.
Right.
It's amazing how these intentional changes can lead to such positive outcomes.
And it really is. And it shows how powerful it can be
It does.
to recognize what we need and use strategies that work for us.
Totally. So how do these skills play out in different areas of life?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm curious to learn more about their impact in the workplace.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. The workplace is like a testing ground for these executive functions.
Right.
The book says that these skills are what allow us to handle all those demands at work.
Uh-huh.
You know, work with other people
Right.
and lead teams effectively.
I can see how different skill sets would be tough in teams.
Oh, yeah,
You know, if you have people with different strengths and weaknesses,
definitely.
it could be challenging.
Totally. Like imagine a team where one person's great at planning,
Okay.
but another struggles with getting started on things.
Oh, yeah,
That could cause a lot of tension if it's not managed well.
definitely.
Yeah.
The book also goes into home life,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like managing chores,
Mm-hmm.
resolving those family conflicts,
Right.
and how individual executive function profiles
Yeah.
can actually impact the dynamics of a household?
Family life is full of
It
challenges.
really is.
Smart but scattered looks at how differences in these executive function skills between family members
All right.
can either lead to harmony
Okay.
or total chaos.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see how differences in organization or time management
Totally.
would cause friction.
Absolutely.
Does the book offer any guidance on how to navigate that?
It encourages families to communicate openly,
Okay.
understand each other's needs,
Right.
and create systems that work for everyone.
So, like, what kinds of systems?
Well, they say visual schedules can really help kids who struggle with planning.
That makes sense.
And shared responsibility charts can help divide up chores fairly,
That's a good idea.
based on everyone's strength.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
The book also talks about this relationships executive skills questionnaire.
Oh, yeah.
What is that all about?
That questionnaire helps couples figure out if they're compatible
Okay.
based on their executive function profiles.
Interesting.
So by figuring out where the potential conflicts might arise from these differences in skills, couples can work on better communication
Gotcha.
and support each other.
It sounds like a helpful tool for building understanding in relationships.
It does.
So we've talked about the workplace.
Yes.
We've talked about home life.
Uh-huh.
We've talked about romantic partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
What about aging?
Oh, that's a big one.
Right.
A lot of people worry about that.
Yeah. How does aging impact our executive function?
So the book does address the fact that there's a natural decline in executive function as we age,
Okay.
but it emphasizes that it's not inevitable
Okay.
or irreversible.
That's good.
Yeah, our brains are amazing.
Right?
They have this thing called plasticity,
Yeah.
which means they can keep changing and adapting
I like that.
throughout our lives.
So we can keep strengthening these skills as we get older.
We can.
That's great news.
It is. And the book talks about all sorts of lifestyle factors
Okay.
that can promote healthy cognitive aging,
Like what?
like physical exercise,
Right. Okay.
social engagement,
Uh-huh.
and cognitive stimulation.
Interesting.
So it's really about nurturing our brains
Right.
as we age.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Let's dive into those a little bit.
sure.
What's the connection between physical exercise and cognitive health?
So research has shown that regular exercise
Uh-huh.
increases blood flow to the brain,
Okay.
and that helps new brain cells grow.
Wow.
And it makes communication between different parts of the brain better.
That's incredible. So exercise is good for our bodies and our minds.
It is.
What kinds of exercise are best for cognitive function?
They've found that aerobic exercises are really good,
Okay. Like what?
like brisk walking,
Okay.
running,
Mhm.
swimming, cycling.
Those are all good ones.
Yeah.
What about strength training?
Strength training is great too,
Okay.
because it helps us maintain muscle mass
Right.
and just overall physical function,
Mm.
which then indirectly helps our cognitive health.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The book also talks about social engagement.
Yeah.
Being important for healthy cognitive aging.
It is.
How does staying connected with others benefit our brains?
Well, when we interact with others,
Mm-hmm.
it stimulates our minds.
Right.
It challenges us to think in new ways, and it provides emotional support.
Right.
All of that contributes to cognitive resilience.
So it's like having fun and connecting with people
Exactly.
actually helps keep our brains sharp
It does.
as we age.
Uh-huh.
What are some good ways to stay socially engaged as we get older?
Well, volunteering is great.
That's good.
Joining clubs or groups,
Mhm.
going to social events,
Right.
and spending time with loved ones.
All great ideas.
Yeah, it's all about nurturing those connections
Makes sense.
and keeping our minds active and engaged.
And then there's cognitive stimulation.
Yes.
What kind of activities provide that?
Anything that challenges your brain,
Okay.
makes you think critically, or helps you learn new things,
So like what?
like reading,
Okay.
doing puzzles, learning a new language,
Right.
playing a musical instrument,
Yeah.
even just having deep conversations.
Interesting.
It's all about keeping our minds active.
So it seems like a lot of things can contribute to cognitive health.
It can.
The key is finding something you enjoy
Exactly.
that keeps you engaged.
Yeah, if you enjoy it, you're more likely to stick with it.
Makes sense.
And then you get those cognitive benefits.
And finally, we have mindfulness practices.
Right.
How do those support executive function and cognitive health?
So mindfulness is all about being present in the moment
Okay.
without judging our thoughts or feelings.
Right.
And that helps us develop our focus, our awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and our ability to regulate our emotions,
Okay.
which are all really important for strong executive function.
So mindfulness helps us to be more present
It does.
and less reactive to those thoughts and emotions.
Exactly.
Are there any specific practices recommended in the book?
They talk about meditation,
Uh-huh.
yoga,
Uh,
deep breathing exercises
Gotcha.
as effective ways to practice mindfulness.
Okay.
They can help reduce stress,
Right.
improve attention,
No.
and boost our overall well-being.
Smart, but scattered. Offers so many strategies for improving executive function skills.
It does.
What are some practical tips that people can start using right away?
Well, one simple thing is to use visual reminders.
Okay.
Whether it's a to-do list,
Right.
a calendar with important dates highlighted,
Uh-huh.
or even just a sticky note with a motivational phrase.
I love that.
Those visual cues can really help us stay focused and
Mhm.
organized.
I use visual reminders all the time,
Me too.
especially when I'm feeling overwhelmed.
They're so helpful.
They are.
Another great strategy is breaking down those big, overwhelming tasks
Right?
into smaller, more manageable steps.
Yeah,
That can make a huge difference.
we can.
It makes things feel less daunting,
It does.
and you get that sense of accomplishment as you finish each step.
It's such a powerful way to overcome procrastination
Absolutely.
and build momentum
Mm-hmm.
towards a larger goal.
And don't underestimate the power of routines.
Oh, routines are so important,
They are,
especially for daily tasks.
yes, like getting ready in the morning
Ah,
or preparing for bed.
right.
When you have a routine for those things,
Yeah,
it frees up your mental energy.
it does.
And you don't have to rely so much on those executive function skills.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Routines can really streamline our lives
they can.
and make those daily tasks feel less demanding,
Totally.
like they're on autopilot.
And remember,
Yeah.
be kind to yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone struggles with executive function challenges sometimes.
I know I do.
It's part of being human.
It is.
So it's important to recognize our strengths and weaknesses
Uh-huh.
without beating ourselves up about it
Right.
and just embrace the process of growth.
Totally. Progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about procrastination,
Okay.
which is a common challenge for a lot of people
Yeah.
and often stems from executive function weaknesses.
It does.
What strategies does the book offer for tackling procrastination?
They say the first step is to understand why we're procrastinating.
Okay.
A lot of times,
Yeah.
it's because we're afraid of failing,
Right.
or we want things to be perfect,
Yeah.
or we're not really sure what our goals are.
That makes sense.
So it's not just laziness
Right.
or a lack of willpower.
Uh-huh.
It's more complicated than that.
It is.
And we need to address the root of the problem.
Absolutely. So once we understand the why,
Yes.
we can start developing those coping mechanisms.
Exactly.
Does the book give any specific techniques for overcoming procrastination?
They suggest breaking those big tasks down into smaller chunks
Right.
so it feels less overwhelming,
Okay.
and setting small, achievable goals,
Uh-huh.
and then rewarding yourself when you reach them
Okay.
to create a positive feedback loop.
I like that.
And they also encourage people to embrace progress over perfection. Don't let the fear of not doing something perfectly
Right.
stop you from even starting.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
So it's about taking action,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not perfect,
Exactly.
and learning from that process.
Right.
Now, let's talk about stress tolerance.
Okay.
It's not just about getting through tough times.
Yeah.
It's about having a more well-rounded approach
It is.
to managing pressure
Mm-hmm.
and developing resilience.
Smart but Scattered talks about building that resilience and
Mhm.
finding healthy ways to cope
Right.
so we can manage stress more effectively.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those personal stress triggers
Uh-huh.
and taking steps to manage them.
Right.
We need to build a toolbox of coping mechanisms.
Okay, can you give us some examples?
Well, exercise is a great one
Right.
because it releases endorphins,
Okay.
which boost your mood
Yeah,
and reduce stress.
it makes sense.
And mindfulness practices like meditation and deep breathing
Okay.
can also help to calm the nervous system and regulate emotions.
So those are good for managing stress in the moment.
They are.
Are there any preventative measures the book suggests?
Definitely.
Okay.
They emphasize prioritizing sleep
Okay.
because when we don't get enough sleep,
Right.
it makes stress worse and it's harder to cope.
That makes sense.
So getting enough sleep is crucial,
Okay.
and eating a balanced and nutritious diet.
Right.
So our bodies have the fuel they need
Yeah.
to handle stress.
So self-care practices like good sleep and nutrition
Uh-huh.
really contribute to our overall stress tolerance.
They do.
Okay, and then we can't forget about social support,
Of course.
reaching out to loved ones,
Yes.
sharing our struggles,
Mm-hmm.
seeking professional help when we need it
Right.
can be so valuable,
It can.
especially during those tough times.
It's a reminder that we don't have to go through things alone.
Absolutely.
There are people who care
Yes.
and resources available to help.
Okay, now let's switch gears a bit and talk about executive function development in children.
All right.
What can parents do to support their kids
Mm-hmm.
in developing these crucial skills?
So one of the most important things
Mm-hmm.
is creating a structured and predictable environment.
Okay.
Kids thrive when they have routines,
Uh-huh.
clear expectations,
Right.
and consistent boundaries.
Yeah.
It gives them a framework to
Mhm.
develop those executive function skills.
It's like a roadmap for their developing
Yes,
brains.
exactly.
Okay, what else can parents do?
Modeling those skills is huge.
Okay.
Kids learn by watching us.
Right.
So when we show them how to be organized,
Mm-hmm.
how to manage our time,
Mhm.
how to regulate our emotions,
Right.
it gives them something concrete to copy.
So parents can set a good example
They can?
by practicing the skills they want their kids to learn.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
And it's also important to give kids opportunities to practice.
Okay, so like what?
Well, there are lots of fun activities that
Mhm.
can help, like board games that involve planning, strategy, taking turns.
Right.
Those can all strengthen executive function skills
Interesting.
and even chores,
Oh yeah, chores.
which I know kids don't love,
They don't.
but they're actually a great way for kids to practice responsibility, organization, and
Right.
time management.
So it's about finding ways to make those everyday tasks
Exactly.
engaging and meaningful for kids.
Right, and remember to be patient.
Right.
These skills take time to develop,
They do.
and kids are going to make mistakes along the way.
Of course.
It's all part of the learning process.
So encouragement and support
Yes,
and gentle guidance are key.
they are.
Okay, back to Smart But Scattered.
Mm-hmm.
It has all these resources and tools
It does.
for improving executive function.
Like what?
Can you give us some examples?
Well, there are checklists to help you figure out your strengths and weaknesses,
Okay.
practical tips for modifying tasks and environments, and even sample scripts for talking about these challenges with others.
So it's like a comprehensive guide
It is.
to navigating executive function.
And it emphasizes that there's no one-size-fits-all approach. You
Right.
have to find what works best for you
Right.
and tailor those strategies to your own needs.
Makes sense.
So it's all about experimentation and self-discovery.
Okay.
Try different things,
Uh-huh.
see what works,
Yeah.
and adjust as needed.
I like that.
So you can find the perfect fit for your unique executive function profile.
That's so important.
It is.
So it's a journey of continuous learning and growth.
Exactly.
And it's personalized to our individual needs.
Right.
Smart But Scattered also says that even small improvements
Yes.
can make a big difference
They can.
in our well-being
Uh-huh.
and quality of life.
Absolutely.
So it's about recognizing and celebrating those small wins
It is.
and focusing on progress,
That's the key.
not perfection.
It's about the journey,
Right.
not the destination.
The book really gives a message of hope and empowerment.
He does.
Executive function challenges are manageable.
They are.
And with the right tools and support,
Mm-hmm.
we can all work towards more organized,
Yes.
focused,
Correct.
and fulfilling lives.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's revisit stress tolerance one more time.
Yeah.
It's not just about toughing it out.
No.
It's about having a more nuanced approach
It is.
to managing pressure
Mm-hmm.
and building resilience. So it's about understanding those personal stress triggers,
Yeah.
recognizing when we're starting to feel overwhelmed
Uh-huh.
and being proactive
Mm-hmm.
about taking care of ourselves.
So finding that balance
Yeah.
between pushing ourselves to grow
Mm-hmm.
and knowing when to take a break.
It's about finding that sweet spot
It is.
where it can be challenged
Uh-huh.
but not completely depleted.
Right.
So it sounds like it's more about managing stress effectively
It is.
than trying to eliminate it completely.
Yeah, stress is a part of life.
It is.
But we can learn to manage it.
So what are some practical strategies for building that stress tolerance?
They suggest mindfulness practices like meditation, yoga, deep breathing. Those can all help to calm our nervous systems and make us less reactive to those stressors.
They're training our minds to be more present,
They are.
less reactive. And exercise is another great tool.
Of course.
Right.
Because physical activity releases those endorphins, those
Yeah.
feel-good chemicals
Right.
that help reduce stress.
So taking care of our physical health
Uh-huh.
helps with our mental health as well.
It does.
What types of exercise are most effective for managing stress?
Those aerobic exercises that we talked about earlier, like
Yeah.
brisk walking,
Right.
running, swimming, cycling,
Gotcha.
those are all really good for stress
And
management.
what about strength training?
Strength training is good too
Okay.
because it builds muscle mass
Right.
and improves our overall physical function, which can make us more resilient
Okay.
and better able to handle those challenges.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about sleep,
Okay.
which we all know is so important,
It is,
but often gets neglected.
especially when we're stressed.
Yes, exactly.
But the book emphasizes that sleep deprivation actually makes stress worse.
Okay.
It makes us more irritable,
Right.
more reactive,
Yeah.
more prone to emotional outbursts.
I could see that.
So we really need to prioritize getting enough sleep.
Okay, so how much sleep do we need?
Most adults need between 7 and 9 hours of good quality sleep every night.
Okay. Any tips for improving sleep quality?
Well, try to stick to a consistent sleep schedule.
Okay.
Create a relaxing bedtime routine.
Right.
And make sure your bedroom is cool, dark, and quiet.
Makes sense.
Those things can all help you sleep better.
Okay. And what about nutrition?
Nutrition is important too.
Okay.
Because a healthy diet gives our bodies the nutrients they need to function well,
Yeah.
including handling stress.
So what should we be eating?
Focus on fruits and vegetables,
Okay.
whole grains,
Uh-huh.
lean protein,
Mm-hmm.
and healthy fats.
Okay.
Those foods provide vitamins,
Right.
minerals, and antioxidants
Mm-hmm.
that support our stress response system.
And what should we avoid?
Try to limit processed foods,
Okay.
sugary drinks,
Mhm.
and too much caffeine.
Right.
Those can actually make stress worse,
Okay.
and they can lead to mood swings.
Interesting.
So making mindful food choices
Uh-huh.
can really help us manage stress.
Totally. It's all connected.
It is.
Our mind and body.
And as we discussed earlier, don't forget about social support,
Right.
reaching out to loved ones,
Uh-huh.
sharing your struggles,
Mm-hmm.
seeking professional guidance when you need it.
Yeah.
Those are all so important for managing stress.
Absolutely. They remind us that we're not alone in those challenges.
Exactly.
We have resources and support systems that can help us navigate those tough times.
They can.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we've explored these executive functions.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about how they impact different areas of our lives,
We have.
and we've looked at different strategies for strengthening them.
Yes,
It's been a lot,
it has.
but it's been really interesting.
It has been fascinating.
Before we wrap up,
Okay.
why don't we distill everything into like a 10-point summary
Oh, I like that.
so that our listeners can really take away
Mm-hmm.
the key insights?
Yeah, having those takeaways can be really helpful
Right.
for putting this knowledge into practice.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So number one,
Okay.
executive function skills are crucial for success in all areas of life.
Yes, not just in childhood.
Not just in childhood, they're essential for adults too.
Absolutely.
Number two,
Okay.
the demands of modern life can make it really tough to maintain strong executive function.
It's true. We're constantly bombarded with information and distractions.
Right, it's like a constant battle.
It is.
Okay, number three,
Right.
there are 12 core executive function skills
Yes.
that we can strengthen throughout our lives.
And that's so empowering.
You
It's
think-
to know that we can keep learning and growing.
Okay, number four,
Number 4.
understanding our individual skill profile
Mm-hmm.
is the first step to improving our executive function.
So important to know our strengths and weaknesses.
Right, that self-awareness is key.
It is.
Number 5,
5.
modifying our environment
Yes.
can really support those weaker skills.
Absolutely.
It's about creating systems,
Mm-hmm.
establishing routines, seeking support
Right.
to create an environment that works for us.
It's about setting ourselves up for success.
Exactly. Okay, number 6,
6.
we can improve our executive function skills
If you can?
through practice
Yes.
and reinforcement.
It takes effort
It does,
and dedication.
but it's possible.
It is.
Okay, number 7,
7.
executive function skills are crucial
Yes.
in the workplace,
Yeah.
at home,
Mm-hmm.
and in our relationship.
They affect everything.
They do. They influence how we communicate,
Right.
collaborate, manage responsibilities.
It's all connected.
Okay, number 8.
8.
While executive function skills naturally decline with age,
Yes.
we can take steps
Mhm.
to maintain them.
Absolutely.
Number 9,
9.
lifestyle factors like exercise,
Mm-hmm.
social engagement,
Mm-hmm.
and cognitive stimulation
Right.
can promote healthy cognitive aging.
It's all about taking care of our brains
About-
as we age.
Okay, and finally, Number 10.
10.
Mindfulness practices can help us to improve our executive function
And manage stress.
and manage stress.
So important.
It gives us those tools to navigate life's challenges
With more awareness.
with more awareness and composure.
It does.
So those are our 10 key insights
That's a great summary.
from Smart But Scattered.
Lots of valuable information.
I know, it's a lot to take in.
But it's worth it.
It is.
To invest in our executive function skills.
And remember,
Yes.
every step you take
Mm-hmm.
towards strengthening those skills
Mm-hmm.
is a step towards,
Our more fulfilling life.
Right.
Absolutely.
and that concludes our deep dive for today.
Wow, that went by fast.
It did.
But we covered a lot of ground.
We did.
I hope our listeners found it helpful.
Me too. I think there's so much valuable information here
Yes.
that people can use to improve their lives.
Absolutely.
Remember,
Yes.
you're not alone in these challenges.
All right. We all struggle sometimes.
And there are resources available
Mm-hmm.
to help you along the way.
If you're interested in learning more,
Yes,
I highly recommend checking out Smart But Scattered.
it's a great book.
It is full of practical advice and strategies.
So until next time,
Yes.
keep learning
Keep growing
and keep exploring.
and keep those executive functions strong.
Thanks for joining us.
It was my pleasure.